Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Daniel Roman here for winteriscoming.net, and I am so excited today to be talking to Alex Seaver, aka Mako, who is the executive music producer, songwriter, and co-composer for Arcane, Netflix's hit animated series based on League of Legends. Alex, thank you so much for taking time. How's it going?
It's going great. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, it's a pleasure. Been loving Arcane this season. Huge fan of the show. So you were working with Riot Games before this, right?
Yeah.
So how, first question, when did you start collaborating with them? How'd that happen? And how did you react when you first found out they were making Arcane and wanted you to be a part of it?
So I think I started 2015. I did an EDM remix for them, turned out to be a song called Piercing Light. You can see like a Mako remix of it. Very
Nice.
EDM-y. Systematically over the years, I started writing a bunch of songs, did some world's anthems for them. We've done music videos together. I mean, as people have watched, Riot's really expanded in terms of their like love of music.
Yeah.
Um, and then yeah, maybe 2018 or 19, Christian Link, the showrunner for Arcane, uh, pulled me into a room and said, "Watch this," and it was like the whole pilot episode of Arcane.
Oh,
Uh,
cool.
and my jaw dropped. I had no idea this thing was even getting made, and I couldn't really make sense of it because it was so overwhelming, in how well it was done. And so he asked me at the end, like, "Hey, do you want to be a part of this?" And I was like, "Hell yeah, dude, let's do it, please."
Man, that must have been so crazy. I can't imagine what that must have been like to not know Arcane existed because they were doing, the small music videos and stuff, right? But they had never done something of that scale before.
Never, never. And I think the other thing was like, which we've all now come to love about it, is like video game adaptations weren't a thing that you thought of as like this is going to go well. And
Yeah.
even from that first episode, I mean, obviously I didn't understand the whole breadth of the emotions of the story at that point, but just like seeing the way it was paced and the way it looked, of course, and the voice acting, I was like, "Oh, this is something that's in good hands and could be good." And that even by itself was kind of like a brand new sensation.
Yeah, totally. So at this point we're now, we're cruising up on the end of the second season, the final season. I think by the time this goes up on the site, season 2 will be out in its entirety.
So
So were there any ways that like working on season 2 was different for you from season 1?
yeah, the biggest is that Christian asked me to executive music produce the soundtrack for season two. My first question to him was, "Okay, cool. What does that mean?" Um, Season one featured, I think, 11 songs, and we really invented this crazy process of like film scoring our songs to picture and just like weaving it all together. But I was only paying attention to the songs that I wrote,
Yeah.
and I probably did maybe half of them. Season two, when he asked me to kind of executive music produce it, it's like, no, you're responsible for making sure all the songs turn out at the quality that we need, even the ones that I'm not writing. And that was a whole brand new thing because I never aspired to be a leader of any kind, and I don't have a ton of qualities that I think like a good leader would in my head. But the fun thing about it was that like the reality was I got to go work with some of the world's greatest artists who are so damn good at what they do that all I had to do was just show them the story, tell them about it, and just lightly guide them through the process. And that was such a rewarding experience for me. It's also like opened up a lot of just personal doors in terms of like what I even think about my role in things could be in the future, just because I loved it so
Yeah.
much. And I see why Christian digs it too, because he started on the music staff at Riot and now, show
Oh.
runs Arcane. And I think he went through a transformation of his own to get there. But that was the big difference for me, was like actually taking responsibility for the whole soundtrack. And I loved every second of it.
Oh, that's so cool. So I was gonna ask you about this because you mentioned, working with all these different artists and stuff. I saw some older interviews with you from I think around season 1 where you talked about working with Sting and what a
Yeah.
surreal thing that was. So for season 2, like were there any moments similar to that or any artists where you were like, pinch me, like what are we doing here?
Big time. I mean, it's a good thing to still feel that way because the worst thing you ever want to feel is like used to that kind of stuff.
Sure.
I never got used to it. And then I think it also it seeped into areas where it's like Sting is just an artist that the world knows, and it was surreal because it was like, I don't know, working with a Beatle or something like that. I
Yeah.
had a lot of moments in season two where they were artists that I personally like mean a lot to me. Like Stromae is like an artist that like meant so much to me, and also an artist who's very mysterious. And I was so blown away that he was open to work on the project, and then like working with them was so great. Freya Ridings, the song in episode one, she's an artist that I personally pitched to the team because I
Oh,
just
cool.
loved her music so much. And like and then bringing like Woodkid back and being able to make music with him. I mean, season one we emailed files to each other. Season two we were jamming in Paris. We were making music here in my studio. Like that was surreal. There's just a lot of different moments from this season that like I still was like, I can't believe we're doing this right now.
Yeah, that's so cool. So one in particular I wanted to ask you about was I have to ask about Heavy as the Crown.
Yeah.
Because not only was that one of the first songs revealed from Arcane's soundtrack, it was also one of the first songs to be put out by Linkin Park since they got their new singer, Emily
Yeah.
Armstrong. And obviously that's something fans have been waiting to see what they would do next for a really long time.
Yeah.
And I noticed it looks like the production credits are a little different for that one on like the YouTube video. So because I guess it's on their album as well. So what was that like? Being a part of that next chapter for Linkin Park, and how and incorporating that song into the show.
I mean, talk about a surreal moment. That's a pretty surreal moment is when Mike
Yeah.
Shinoda has you overdo his place and says, "Okay, I'm rebooting Linkin Park. Here's the first couple songs." And you're
Oh my
sitting in his
God.
room like, "Holy shit. Like I can't believe this is happening." Mike rules first off. I met him at the first season premiere.
Cool.
He's been known to League audiences. I mean, he's a gamer. He's like been in the community for a long time, and he was a day one like Arcane fan. And so we met him at the premiere, and he was like, would love to do stuff with you guys. And we were just, oh, of course, we would love that. So I think we started working with him super quickly. And yeah, so there's two, like, we did an Arcane version of the song, and then he's got a Linkin Park version of the song, and he's like deeply involved in all of it, obviously. But the cool thing about him and many of the artists is that they were very like gracious with how like allowing us to use some of this material in the way that the show needs. Like
Yeah.
his Heavy as like Linkin Park's Heavy as the Crown is a start to finish banger. Like it
Yeah.
just goes. And the scene that we needed Heavy as the Crown for in episode one is it has a big moment at the end, but it's very cinematic and it's moody. And one thing that was really important to Christian is that he's like, it can't feel cool. It needs to feel scary because it's like
Yeah.
Caitlyn's arc gets really twisted in this season. And so this song like had to tee up that feeling. And so just working with Mike on that one was so much fun. And then seeing how it all came together and Emily's voice is insane. The
Yeah.
whole thing is like was just such a beautiful collaboration.
That's amazing. That's so cool. And yeah, Caitlyn has had a hell of a story this season.
She,
My
she's seen
favorite
some shit.
shot, my favorite shot of the opening of this season of the show, like the credits, there's a shot where she's got her hands in front of her face and it makes a
So
crown, and
dope.
it's like, oh my
So dope.
God. So Arcane, it's so interesting to me because the music is such an integral part of this show. And it's like there are music videos in every episode, but then there's also like traditional scoring throughout a lot of it too. How do you and the rest of the team, whoever makes these decisions, how do you decide which parts of the show get the music video treatment and which parts get the more traditional scoring?
Absolutely. So yeah, first off, I just want to shout out Alex Temple, who's like lead composer on Arcane. He's our quarterback for all things score. He's my
Cool.
favorite composer alive. I just adore his work and being able to work with him because I helped out on the score as well. Most of season two for me was the songs, but
Yeah.
I was doing a bunch of scenes with Alex as well. But just hearing his music week in and week out was so insane. It's going to be one of the things that I'll miss the most about not having Arcane anymore.
Yeah.
But from the very beginning, usually from Fortiche and Christian. So Fortiche is the the animation studio in Paris.
Hmm.
They make those decisions kind of at the beginning. We'll have some moments where we tinker and we think one thing's a song, but it ends up not being, and other things where we're like, maybe this could be a song. But for the most part, it comes at me and Alex already pre-mapped out. Because as you notice in season two, like one of the songs per episode is kind of like a crazy, like pop out of a new animation style. Like they move
Yeah.
into different mediums for some of these song moments, which like that takes a ton of planning on their part. So they really make sure that they know when they want to do those. I think oftentimes they occur right after the opening credits. Stuff like that is pre-planned, and then we sort of immediately dive into conversations about with them about what do you want to do with these music beats that you've laid out for us.
That's so cool. Were there any particular like characters or yeah, let's stick with characters for now.
Yeah.
Any characters you were particularly excited to write for this season?
Yeah, like season one, I was so obsessed with Jinx and Vi's story and like Powder and their relationship was just that occupied so much of my like emotional like capacity. Because I wrote a lot of songs through their perspective. And then
Yeah,
season two, I was like ready to go telling those stories, and all of a sudden Caitlyn comes through and just like wallops me. Like
yeah,
I liked Caitlyn, but I didn't love her in season one, just personally. I didn't actually end up writing a ton of her music because Alex Temple would handle a lot of the Piltover based stuff. So I was just like, oh, I like her. And then season two begins, and I'm like, oh, she's like the new muse. Like
yeah.
she goes through such a complicated, interesting arc. And I got to write a lot of Caitlyn songs this season. She was my like standout for like I had the most fun. It's almost like an actress. Like I had the most fun working with Caitlyn. Like she's a
Yeah.
real person. But it's like that was a really special, like new experience for me was diving into her kind of experience.
That's awesome. So it sounds like you've been working with Riot for a while. Have you are you a gamer? Like do you play?
Yeah, big time. I mean, grew up like a huge gamer. I mean, I was like a crazy World of Warcraft guy and
Nice.
all kinds of FPS games and all kinds of stuff. It's crazy now because it's like it sucks being an adult and not having nearly as many gaming hours as I did when I was younger.
Yeah, yeah.
Uh, and like right now I'm starving for something. I need a new game in my life right now. But Riot's done such a good job. Like when I was with them, they only made League of Legends. Like
Yeah.
I was with them for several years before. Can't remember what the first next thing was. I don't know if it was Valorant or if it was like TFT. Um, but yeah, there's periods where I'm like diving back into Wild Rift, playing that a bunch on my phone. They've
Nice.
got some the new shit that I haven't like played anything, but like the new stuff that they're working on is so dope. Like I can't wait to see some of that stuff. The 2XKO, I think the fighting game looks so awesome as well.
Oh,
Yeah.
cool. Cool. I need to check that out. I haven't even seen the teasers or anything for that. Um,
Yeah. And they like put arcane characters into it. I mean, like some of the
nice.
landscapes in the background are like from our, it's like so cool how they integrate the whole world.
Yeah. So was there anything in the show that really hit you like as a fan of League of Legends where it was like, I can't believe I'm watching this in a television show, this thing that I've enjoyed in the game for so long?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of like seeing how these champions came to be is the thing that's pretty
Yeah.
crazy. Like that's the fun part is that inside, I don't take any ownership over this statement, but to me, it seems like we're telling prequel stories for a lot of these champions. It's like how they become the champions that you know in the game. I have no idea if that's accurate, but it's just the way I
Yeah.
sort of have felt about it. Um, and like, and like seeing how they're telling these stories when Vi starts off as like, you know, a girl from Zaun that hates Piltover and hates the enforcers and like seeing how she becomes the champion that you know in the game is just like it's really cool. I mean, talk about arcs. Victor is one of my all-time
Oh
favorites in
man.
season two. Like
So
his
crazy.
story is so unbelievable that's probably the most delicious one to see like the Arcane that I know from the game, the Victor I know from the game and the one that I've seen, you know, get there.
Yeah, yeah. Victor's story has been just mind-blowingly cool. So were there any, and again, however cryptically, not cryptically, you want to talk about this because, like I said, this will be after the final episodes drop. But were there any parts, or scenes or anything like that you were especially excited to write for this season, or that really hit you when you wrote for them?
Did you say this is coming out after Act
It will.
3?
It will.
Yeah,
So whatever you want to say, I have not seen Act 3, but what it will be after. Yes.
I'm going to unfortunately spoil this for you
That's
right
fine.
now, but the one I've been dying to talk about that I haven't been able to is Heimerdinger's song in episode 7
Oh,
is
nice.
is my one of my all-time favorite moments from both seasons. I got to work with our voice actor Mick Wingert that plays Heimerdinger, and we wrote this really just heartfelt beautiful but happy song for a very crazy episode. And we've never done that. We never had a character sing a song on screen. We localized the show in 25 languages. And so we translated and
Wow.
recorded 25 different languages for this
Wow.
song. So every single region is going to hear Heimerdinger singing in their language. It's unbelievable the
That's
scope of this thing.
incredible.
It's so cool. This is one of the coolest projects we were working on. And Mick is like the most beautiful spirit. He's such a cool guy. He has a wonderful voice, and that one is just like a hard left turn on the rest of the soundtrack that I'm really excited for.
Wow, that is amazing. I can't wait to hear that. So he recorded all the different localizations.
No, so obviously I don't know how many languages he
Yeah.
speaks, but I'm assuming not many. So we contacted the voice actors from every region that play Heimerdinger.
Oh, cool.
And for those that sang, we had an audition process, and so if they sang and they sang like Heimerdinger, how they spoke,
Yeah.
they would get the part. And then if not, or if they didn't sing, we would work with other talent. And so I'm just getting demos from Vietnam, from Brazil, from
That's so
Spain. I'm just getting
that's so
demos coming at
cool.
me, and we're just like picking and trying to get it all right. And I don't speak any other languages, so I don't know how good the translations are, but we had a great team working on it, so I'm sure it was fabulous. And so yeah, like in the same way that there's a whole voice cast for every region that's different than ours, the
Yeah.
singers theirs as well.
Oh, that's so
Yeah.
cool. So I read an interview recently with Christian Link, the showrunner, where he said that Arcane was almost like a sort of proof of concept for the idea of being able to do shows set in the League of Legends universe, like showing that that there is the story there to be done. So I'm curious, since you've played the game and since you obviously know stuff, are there any other regions or champions you personally would be excited to create music for in another show?
That's a good question. I mean, like, this is just me personally
Yeah,
speaking. I love Bilgewater. Like, I just feel like that's a dope region
nice.
that, like, it would be cool. I love the Freljord. I love so much of this stuff. There's some that I didn't know quite as well that, like, for example, we had to write a Shuriman chant, like, from Shurima in episode 3. I worked with the lore team to, like, invent a language.
Oh,
And I was
cool.
just kind of like diving into what that region was a little bit more. And I was like super interested in all that stuff. But yeah, like to Christian's point, like I think, the world of Runeterra is so rich for the storytelling. Like all it takes is a couple people like our writing team for Arcane to just like keep filling in these other stories with kind of like movies and television shows. I mean, I don't know what they're working on, but I know like everybody's really excited to kind of see what they do next.
Yeah, yeah. I know I'm psyched to see what wherever they go next, it's gonna be cool.
Yeah.
Um, so kind of related to that, I think I almost feel like Riot is a little underrated at just how good they've been at branching into different mediums, like in the League world. Because like Arcane is incredible. They've made books. I know they've got one coming out about Ambessa next year. The music albums, like you mentioned, I forgot the song you said, but War Songs, right? Was
Yep.
your
Yep.
first one you did.
Yeah.
They had Pentakill. Those
Yeah.
albums are just bangers. So what do you think has been almost like the secret to that success? That they've been able to go into these different mediums and still appeal to people who maybe don't even know the game.
Yeah, I mean the thing I guess been there like 9 years or so. The thing that I love and the reason I keep coming back is that it's a group of people that are obsessed with doing something to the best of like their ability. Like we're all super fans of the things that we love in the same way
Yeah.
that like, the League audience is. And so we want to make things that are as dope as the things we love. And like that's phase one, which is we take a long time because we want to get things right. and we don't put things out if it's undercooked. And then the second thing is like Riot is willing to take crazy swings and crazy risks. And they have a big ethos of like not doing, like cut rate versions of what other things are. Like it's not about making like a junior version of, I don't know, XYZ sort of big movie or big game or whatever. They want to make it their own way. And they take I mean, Arcane is such a huge risk.
Yeah.
Um, and like, yeah, it's everything they do. Like when I first saw KDA, the K-pop project that was like a virtual band, I was like, man, this is a huge swing, and it's done so well that you're just like, yep, I love this now. And I just think those two qualities are like kind of what makes them special, and it's the reason I love working for them so much is that I love making stuff like that.
Yeah, that's awesome. That makes total sense. So bringing it back to the music, I noticed that I don't know who's responsible for this, which Alex was behind this, but I noticed you guys snuck in the original Jinx Champion reveal music when Sevica's trying out her new arm
Yep.
in the second episode. So correct me if I'm wrong here. It sounds like the melody is like slightly different. Can you talk a little bit about revisiting that? Like, did you actually get the singer back to re-record, or is that all remix magic?
So that is Sebastian Najand, who's also one of the like core composers and producers at Riot. And me and Sebastian have done so much music together. We did Rise and Legends Never Die. We recently did
Yeah,
Gods. And he did a ton of songs on both seasons of Arcane, some with me as well. He did that cue, and he also produced that song. It's happening during this epic fight sequence where the song Renegade plays. And so Fortiche had that crazy idea where Jinx builds this arm that's like a slot machine, and
yeah,
sh and the whole idea was if Jinx is making this arm for Savika, she's fucking with Savika. She's gonna throw little things in there that are just
yeah,
annoying because she's annoying and she loves to annoy Savika. And so I think like that train of thought led us to like let's actually think about what song Jinx would put in there. Her own theme song. Like, why not? Of course she
yeah,
would do that. And so the original artist for that song is called Jerv. They're from Norway. And so we brought Jerv back to do their own song on season 2 of Arcane. It's a song Rebel Heart in episode 4. But Seb took the old files from Get Jinxed, this original song, and remixed them. You're right. He altered some melodies, like he was playing with it. That sequence took a really long time to get right because the visuals didn't make a ton of sense to us when they were in their previs form. It's
yeah,
such a like it's there's so much happening on screen that it was a little tough to tell exactly how the scene would be legible until we got near the final animatics of it. And I think at that point Seb like dialed in. We tried a bunch of different kinds of pieces of music, but Seb really worked hard on that one. And then, it's like breaking up his banger of a song. So it's like
yeah.
interrupting his own song before it gets back to his song. That was one of the most complicated sequences musically this season.
Yeah, and I mean, worth it though, because that sequence, like, I love picking out music stuff, and that is just a standout sequence of the whole season so far for
That's
me.
dope. Yeah, I'll tell Seb. He'll be very
Yeah,
happy.
yeah, no, so good. So one thing that I really loved about the soundtrack, just in general, but especially for this season, because you have so many more original songs, is that they are all original. Like, you know, you guys could have taken the route of licensing songs and didn't. Can you talk a little bit about the thought process, for deciding to do that rather than going with pre-existing songs?
Yeah, so that's all Christian and Fortiche. Like they love music. Christian is allergic to hearing, Marvel movies where an AC/DC song gets synced for
Yeah,
the millionth time. I mean, that's
yeah,
his
yeah,
big pet peeve is like there are so many talented musicians and writers. Why are we not making new things? I mean, that's he wants to tell a new story with Arcane and he wants to tell new stories with the soundtrack. And like, thank God, because it's the most rewarding experience making this stuff. And all the artists we work with are dying to do it. I'm like, I would do 10 more seasons of this. Like, we're just
yeah,
starving to do these things, like to dig deep and make the songwriting as deep as the storytelling is. Like, there's so many of us out there that want to do this, and there's just not a lot of properties and opportunities to do it. And so I think like all the kudos in the world to Fortiche and Christian for like taking a chance. I mean, when they're working on Arcane, which it's been publicized like how much the budget is and all this stuff is crazy. The
yeah,
stakes are so high. they still will be like, we're going to reserve this 3.5 minute segment and this 2 minute segment in our episode for a song to fill it. We don't know what the song is, but we trust our team to get it. Like, that's an insane responsibility, but it's also like such an honor that they think that we'll be able to rise to the occasion and make something special. And I think the reason that they trust us is because our teams work so well together. Everybody's really like fighting together for the cause, which is tell this story as good as possible. And then all you got to do is just look at the paintings that Fortiche is sending you and be like, yeah, this is going to be easy to make music over this. Like their images make all of our music sound better.
Oh, that's so cool. Yeah, it's such a testament to, putting the creativity first.
Yeah.
It's just incredible work. Um, so I know we're running close on time, so I'm gonna wind down with a few quicker questions,
Cool.
easier questions. So now that the show is finished-ish, what are the chances that we'll get an Arcane live music concert tour?
That is a good question. Nobody's asked that. I don't know, and I want one. I want
Yeah,
to do one. Riot Games used to do these more often. They would, at their Worlds events, they would do like a night before Worlds, they do a whole orchestral medley concert that would be all the champion themes that they had made. I mean, this is years ago, so we didn't have that many songs back then.
yeah.
Um, they're a ton of work to put together, but they're really cool and we should do it. I will send your question along. I
Yes,
am not the
please.
one that has the power to do these things, but I think it would be really special too. And I think people would really enjoy
Yeah, I think people would show up for something like that. That'd
it.
be pretty sick. So, kind of related to that, this is a hypothetical. The If you were putting together a set of music for a live show, Arcane Music, had to pick like 3 to 5 songs, and you had access to all the guest musicians, what
Oh
songs
my
would be on your set?
God, that's hard, man. That's hard. I mean, like season one, you got to put Enemy up there with Imagine Dragons. That's a
Yeah.
no-brainer. Season one, I gotta throw my guy Woodkid in there with Guns for Hire, and I'm sorry, Sting, you're gonna have to come join us on tour. Season two is so difficult. Man, oh man. There's a couple songs coming up too, like the one with Royal and the Serpent called Wasteland is beautiful. The 21 Pilots one is so dope. The King Princess one is gonna go viral. It's so fun.
Cool.
Shit. Yeah. I can't pick for season two. It's too soon. These are
Fair.
too recently of children. I can't select them and kill the rest.
That's super fair, super fair. Um, all right. So last couple questions here. We talked about the original music, how important that is for the show. So obviously I've got to ask, what have you been listening to lately that you'd want to recommend to people, especially if they like what you and Alex Temple have done with Arcane?
Oh yeah, that's a fabulous question. Can you give me 1 second? I'm gonna
Yeah.
refresh my Spotify.
Yeah, pull it up.
I'm always saving stuff. We also like we met a lot of good artists this season when we were working on the soundtrack that I was just like became fans of. Oh, like what like David, like he just did the song Remember Me.
Oh, that's a
In
good one.
He's so good. Also, like he's really good at making music. I mean, he that was one of the hardest spots to figure out, and he just solved it immediately. The rest,
Cool.
I would recommend everybody listen to the rest of his catalog. He's just like so fabulous. Yeah, so like recently, I mean, we had a couple great tours come through LA. So like we had Jungle into Justice, and then we had Gesaffelstein. I like used to make electronic music, so I listened to a lot of that kind of stuff. And
Hmm.
like those were all great concerts. Recently went to Manchester Orchestra. None of these are new bands, but they're all just like things that I've really been listening to a lot of recently. Um, let's see, what else have I got going? Yeah, I saved so much stuff. Yeah, I love like Olafur Arnolds has been a big one for me. I'm gonna shout out one guy that like nobody is a very small act, but his name's Finnegan Twee, and he like made an
Okay.
album that I've been listening to a lot. But yeah, obviously like always trying to ingest as much as possible. And there's a lot of good stuff out there.
Cool. Cool. That's awesome. Thank you. Thank you
Yeah.
so much for pulling up the playlist and looking into
Yep.
that. Really
Yep.
appreciate it.
For
Um,
sure.
all right. So last question here. Now that season 2 is out, what's next for you? Where can people find you? Go ahead and plug whatever you're up to.
Yeah, all my handles are it's Mako, ITSMAKO. I'm working on a new Netflix show. I don't know if I can announce it yet, but it'll come out next year.
Okay,
To
that's
be
cool.
honest, I'm like kind of unemployed for a second. I finished all my big projects. I have some smaller ones that I'm working on, like individual songs, and I'm working on a couple artist albums. But like, I'm kind of like taking a quick chill pill, and then I'm going to see what's next. Like, I want arcane kind of things in my life because I love it.
Yeah.
So I think part of it is just like finding out what else is out there while I wait for Christian to get off his ass and finish whatever he's working on next.
Nice, nice. Well, awesome. Alex, thank you so much for chatting today. This has been a total blast. Love what you're doing with the show and really
Thank
can't
you.
wait to hear whatever's next.
Yeah, this is great. Thanks so much for having me on.